It was a Saturday, mid-Nutcracker season, and the Houston Ballet was deep into the black hole of marathon performances of the production by that same title. I had committed myself to visiting the green room after the show that afternoon, which was a requirement for some of the leading performers in each show. I was physically exhausted from the intensive run of performances and feeling largely uninspired in general, but I had signed my name on the dotted line, thus sealing my commitment to the restricted children's after party. I played the role of lead flower that day, which although was indeed a leading role, it was not a particularly well-known or idolized part. The lead flower in Ben Stevenson's production of the Nutcracker was quite a challenging and athletic role to perform, which remains one of my most favorite parts that I've ever had the privilege of dancing. And yet, it is only the lead in a short divertissement in the second act of the ballet. Most children idolize the role of Clara, who's the main character, and the girl who dreams up most of the story to begin with. Or the beautiful and royal Snow Queen, or actually, the Nutcracker Prince himself, for whom the story is titled. Or perhaps the ultimate pinnacle of every femme or femme fan's bubblegum pink high fructose fantasy, the Sugar Plum Fairy. I had planned to station myself in the corner of the green room and wait out the tedium of the event, just unbothered by any fandom. I was always a wreck of nerves, beginning days before I was to perform a leading part, and so by the time the show had actually come to an end, what was left of me was only a frail puddle of exhaustion. Once in the green room, I stood in my reserved corner, a false smile plastered across my face, and waited as the minutes slowly crept past. The green room was actually a really interesting space, with velvety green carpet and ottomans for seating. The walls were mirrored from base panel to ceiling, creating a more open and airy atmosphere, like an outdoor gazebo in a presidential garden. The wall-length green marble at the end of the room held a large and beautiful flower arrangement at all times, and I slowly eased my way towards it, as though subconsciously I believed that I could camouflage my lead flower self within it. I listened to the conversations of polite adoration and conservative laughter which floated and echoed through the room, as the other dancers busily signed their autographs onto playbills and posed for fan photos. My eyes began to feel heavy and my eyelids struggled to hold themselves open under the weight of my large false eyelashes. The left corner of my mouth began subtly twitching as I continued to uphold my prolonged grin, and my feet had already begun to swell in my point shoes. Just then, as I looked up from my swollen stems, I noticed a woman hurriedly walking towards me. She seemed to be hiding something very sparkly and pink and frilly behind her dress with one hand, as she held another pink item in her other hand, a card or a note of some description. "Ah, there you are. We were looking all over for you." She smiled as she wadded up to me, hindered by the hidden item behind her. My voice cracked as I attempted to use my acting voice, snapping myself back into character. "I'm so glad you did," I exclaimed. "We wanted to give you this note," the woman explained, and she struggled to hand the card to me with one hand as the being behind her fiercely held onto the back of her dress. "Well, thank you so much," I replied with genuine surprise. I held the card in my hands and I turned it over. It was an envelope from a classic stationery set. A pair of pink ballet slippers were pictured on the front and the ribbons twisted and flowing around to the back of the sealed envelope. On the back, drawn in pencil, was a heart, which imitated the way envelopes were once sealed by wax seals or stickers. "You don't need to open it now," the woman assured me. "Trust me, she wrote everything you needed to say in there," and she laughed a little to herself. "Oh, okay, well, thank you so much. This is so nice of," I paused as I strained to look around the woman to where I guessed the author of my lengthy letter was hiding. "She's just so shy," the woman mouthed her words and pointed with her free hand behind her dress. "Oh, well, I can understand that. That's okay. You don't need to come out. But I just want you to know that this has made me so happy. So thank you." And I paused for a moment as I sighted a tiny pink pointed ballet slipper peeking out from behind the woman's dress. "I also want you to know that I think your dress is absolutely beautiful," I coaxed. There was a rustling of the woman's dress. Then there, before my very eyes, appeared the tiniest, most beautiful fairy princess I had ever had the privilege of laying eyes upon. Her tiara twinkled from the prisms made by the crystal chandelier in the room. Her iridescent wings sparkled with pure magic, and her gossamer rose floor-length tulle tutu floated about her. It was as though she sat amongst cotton candy clouds at dawn. My heart fluttered and my eyes filled with her beauty, and she was truly a vision to behold. She said, "She really, really loved you," explained the woman. She said she loved how strong you looked, and I fought back tears which welled in my eyes, and I said, "Thank you, really, thank you so much for this," and I held up my note in recognition. Alone in the Corps de Ballet dressing room, all my co-workers long gone for the afternoon. When they were gone, I peeled the false eyelashes from my eyes and pulled my feet from my point shoes at last, and I sat at my vanity desk in only my tights and flesh-tone leotard, and I held my newly gifted card in my hands with reverence. Carefully, I opened the envelope and retrieved 6 pages of ballerina stationery from within. The letter read, "Dear Ballerina, I love you very much." And then, from what I could extrapolate, the beautiful fairy princess that I'd met in the green room poured her heart out to me for 6 pages of indecipherable fey language. Swirly and curly cursive text filled page after page. Then, at the most bottom of the very most back of the 6th page, it was signed, "I love you forever, love, Bella." Tears welled in my eyes once more, and I allowed myself to finally release them. As it turns out, my fairy princess shared a name with my lifelong best friend of forever. I kept my fairy love letter at the dressing room space for the rest of my 7-year career as a reminder to myself of why I always chosen to dance.